dollar will be devalued in a year or a year and a half. And I originally said a year, but I've extended it a little because it's so hard to call a turn. And I believe that there'll be a debt settlement and official devaluation of the dollar on a 1-for-3 basis. And I'm sticking with that. My timing may be off, but I know that's where it's headed. And if you look at the USDX, which is the U.S. dollar index, and they try to rally it from 74 to 78 and turn around, and I predicted it would, and it's gone back down to 76, 73, and I expect it'll go back and retest 74, and I think that'll happen before March, and I think during March and April it is a good chance it will break down through 71.18 and start testing new low levels. And I think in a year and a half, we can have it somewhere between 40 and 60. And that's when there's going to be real problems. And I also think that the FDIC is going to run out of money. I'll give you a good example. If the number of banks that the FDIC says are in trouble go under in the next year and a half, that's 585 banks, it'll cost them $200 billion. My information has it that there's 2,055 banks in trouble. If they all go under, it's going to cost somewhere between $800 billion and $1 trillion. The FDIC has $93 billion, of which they just got $45 billion from the banks for dues for the next 3 years. So they're not going to have any more income coming from their major contributor. And so if just a small amount of banks go under, 500 or 600, they still can't pay. And the American taxpayer would have to put the money up to bail the depositors out. But I think there's going to be a lot more than 500 or 600 banks going under in the next year and a half. Even 1,000 would put the number at 400 billion that they'd have to come up with. And it just isn't going to happen. And that's why I'm telling people to get their CDs out of banks, get cash values out of life insurance policies, cash values out of annuities, put them in gold and silver related assets. It's going to be the only place you're going to be safe. And we've been right for a long time. And I think we're going to be right again. And in fact, I've even told subscribers not to have more than three months operating expenses in the bank. And of course, from income, you'll continue to put money in, so you continue to have 3 months operating expenses. And with business is 6 months.
Mr. Chapman, are you sometimes looked at as a conspiracy nut because you're really only one of maybe 3 or 4 people that I've heard discuss the fact that you should have 6 months of protection in this coming boom or collapse of the market system? In being considered a conspiracy nut, do you have a relationship with the guy in the movie 2012 who comes out and bringing forth all the information that the world is about to collapse, and he's considered a conspiracy nut until the facts actually happen? When in your views are you going to be vindicated for all the fantastic information you've been bringing forth on True Show for the last 4 years?
Well, that's hard to say, but I would say at least in the next 5 years, because the people who are causing this deliberately have done it before. It's nothing new. It's being done deliberately. The wars are being done deliberately. And, maybe people don't want to hear that, but that's just the way it is. And most people won't talk about that concept or the fact that there is a conspiracy and has been for centuries, because they're afraid. They're afraid of the government, and they're afraid of being rejected by their peers. And the people in the newsletter industry don't like me because I have expressed for 50 years what I'm talking about, and they don't want to be associated with it. And unfortunately for them, they've been wrong most of the time. And that's understandable, because in order to understand what's going on, you have to understand who's doing what to whom and why. And these people don't know why. And they're too lazy to study it. And some of them couldn't even comprehend it if they did. And so that's okay. I've been putting up with this for 50 years. It doesn't bother me at all. And, it's just like, if you want to fight, you came to the right place. And incidentally, most of my competition has lost 70% of their subscribers in the last 2 years. We've doubled ours.
Amen. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 5 minutes. This is Drew Malone Raines III, a Marines Disquisition, and we got Bob Chapman, the International Forecaster.